Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scrap. Earlier this year, when I was finishing up this journal, it's a file folder journal, I had pulled out a bunch of materials that I could use as page bases. And when I was done with those, I just tossed them all in this bin here because I, as generally do, I pulled out way more than I was going to use for that journal. I make fat pages, so I always have to take out some as I'm creating. And as I was putting these pages away, because there's some scrap in there for sure, but most of them are pieces that I would normally combine or use as the bases of pages in my journals. As I was doing that, I thought, well, before I put them away, why don't I put together this journal? And my word this year is rediscover. And part of that involves me finishing up things that I have started and before moving on to another project. And while I was making that journal, I received a package from Amazon and I got this really cool packaging. I've never had it before or since, but it's kind of like, I don't want to say cardboard, but it's not. It's a brown paper. It was a bag basically, kind of like the plastic ones that Amazon sends, but this one happened to be a cardboard-ish, I guess. Anyway, I immediately made it into a journal because I thought it was such cool packaging. And I had shared this base on one of the videos. And I had shared this closure, this envelope style closure, not envelope, pocket style closure with a notepad on another video, and I had put it on the front of this. So I wanted to finish this up before I start my next project. So that's what I've done. I had made the cover and I had made the insert. And for those of you who might be joining me, welcome. Nothing unique or unusual about this one at all. Sorry, I'm going to move my sewing machine to the side. This happens to be, I guess it's about 8 inches by 5 inches, roughly, is the base. And I just have chipboard in here. I cut 3 pieces of chipboard for the front and back and then the spine, and I laid it down on the packaging, and then I folded over and glued the packaging. I left about, between a 1/8 and a 1/4, somewhere in there, inch gap so that it would fold nicely between the center and the 2 front and back panels. And then I put some wide lace on it to cover the spine. And then I sewed all the way around the edges because it's not super thick chipboard, so it fit nicely. And so that's where I've got this. This is the cover, and again, I've showed it before, and so I wanted to finish this up. Then I created the insert, which is my personal favorite way to make a journal for a lot of reasons. One, I like using my sewing machine to sew in the signatures. 2, it allows me a lot of flexibility when I'm putting my pages together, when I'm creating whatever my pages are, because my spine is not super hard. On this one, I just have some Tyvek on the back of brown cardstock. I put that down, pardon me, I rolled it over, and that's the insert that's going to go into that spine. And then I used some of the scrap papers or the leftover papers to start putting the signatures in the spine. And before I finished that, I thought, you know what? I probably should have just shared this start to finish with you guys. And so today, as I'm putting the last few signatures in, I thought I'll just turn on the camera and share what I've got here. So that's what I'm doing. So the reason this is titled Full of Scrap is I did the Scrap Busters journal, probably 3 years or so ago now. And this particular journal, my goal is to put everything inside of this journal will be scrap of one way, shape, or form. Whether it's recycled pages, this one was a file folder that I used with students and I just cut off the name part. So everything in here is recycled in some form, and it's all from my scrap bin. And I had started making what we used to call in the scrapbooking world many years ago, some Franken pages. So I have scraps that I wanted to put together to create page inserts in this. And the entire journal isn't that way, but there are some pieces that I have done that are scrap like that. And so this one is pieced together, and then this one is also pieced together, and I'll show you how I do that because I was going to make another one. And then there's a pocket on it, so I created a pocket on that. And then these are just papers that I've had and pulled out and put together. Again, just anything that I would use as an insert. And then these also have pockets. These were ones from a really old journal that I repurposed or recycled. And so there's pockets here and some pockets here. And I didn't, normally I'm more systematic and I don't want to say matchy, but I'm more intentional about my signatures. Like maybe they'll have 3 pages or they'll have 2 pages. It'll all be fairly comparable. But this one, it's truly just, I'm going to grab this and put this in here. So each signature is slightly different. Maybe they have different number of pages. Maybe they have, like, this is an entire signature just by itself. This cardstock paper. And then this one, well, my gap in this particular spine between my inserts was just a little wider than I liked. So I made a scrap insert. And this one's just a piece of coffee dyed paper. And then I have this little bin of tiny itty bitty pieces of lace scraps that I save, and I use them mostly on clusters when I make clusters. But here I just wrapped them, sewed them down all the way around the page to make an insert to fill some of that gap in the spine. And so that's just little scraps of lace all the way around. And on the inside, I just used another scrap and a Franken page style and sewed some pockets in. And just a little tuck. And I haven't decorated any of these yet. I haven't folded the pages. I haven't made sizes. I've just grabbed things. There's a bookstore in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho called the Well-Read Moose, and I really liked the store, and I'd had a bag from that. And so I just used the bag as a page for the insert. And this lace, coffee dyed lace bit, not lace, doily bit was in my scrap bin, so I used that. And then this Franken page that I made. And then there was some book page there. And again, I don't know how many signatures are in this. But again, these are leftover pages that I chose or had to remove from this journal. So if they look familiar, that's why they're pieces that I had intended to use there. So like this is its own very own signature. And here you can see I had sewed something in upside down, so you can still see the stitches of where I sewed it in and had to take it out. Maybe I'll put a single page in there. That's, again, the beauty of this particular style. I can easily add more if I need to make it thicker or to hide a mistake that I have made. And then this one, this was just a couple pieces of paper that I had laid one on top of the other, sewed around the edges, and made a couple little tuck spots. I don't know, maybe I'll put an insert in here. But I do have a space or two for another signature in the front and in the back. So I thought maybe what I would do is just bring you along with me and show you the process of how I make those. Also, before I forget, we've made these many times, and this is just a vocabulary card that I folded over and tucked inside this pocket. And then there's another journaling writing space, and that's a dried flower. So this is something we've made before, but in case you were curious, this is what it is. It's got transparency over a dried flower. This is a piece that I've shown on the channel before, and I thought I would use that on one of these pages. So I'll do something with these, make them pockets or something. And I'll put this on the front here. And then there was some postcards, vintage postcards that I had that I wanted to include in here. So I'll probably put those in somewhere. And this piece is one, I honestly don't know if I've shown this before. I imagine you've seen it somewhere because it's not uncommon, but I don't know if I've actually shown it. And it's super, super simple. It's one of my favorite ways to use a double-sided digital when I've got leftover digitals. So I'll show you that. It's a super quick project. I'll show you how to make that. And I had intended to use this on one of the inserts as well. I don't know where it'll go yet. I haven't even thought about decorating, but I'll show you how to make those in case you don't know. And if you already do, I apologize, but I promise it'll be quick. And then, so I'm going to use those in here somewhere. And this, my mom had wrapped it around, made this, she likes to cross stitch, and wrapped it around a spool. and that spool was just crying to be used for lace. So I took this off, but I really like it and I want to utilize it. And it's just cross-stitched on ADA fabric. And I think what I will do, I like to put a journaling card. And when I say journaling card, I mean like a hard piece of chipboard or something that's been covered. And I like to tuck it in the back or the front so that I can use it to write on, to write inside the journal. And I thought this would, I'll cut it down somehow, some way, just top and bottom, and make it into a belly band. I thought this might kind of be a cool belly band for when I do the, when this is all said and done, when the signatures, center signatures are ready, I'll glue it in here, right, like so, and then I'll put a piece of fabric or something, or paper or something right here to cover this whole section. And I thought I maybe could, trim this down and use this as a belly band in the back to hold that journaling writing board. I guess it's a writing board. It's not a journaling board, but a writing board. And so that's my thought process so far. Okay, I will move these aside. We're going to add a signature or two to this today. That's my plan. And I will show you how I made this. And again, I did not create this. I think this has been around for a really long time. And if I've already showed it, I apologize, but I did look quickly and I didn't see a video where I've shown that. So I will take, this doesn't work so great with directional paper, though it certainly can. I find it to be a lot easier with, paper like this that can be turned in all different ways. And this is double-sided, so I'm just going to trim this down. And it doesn't matter what size you use. That's another beauty of it. So if you've printed edge to edge, you're good to go. If you haven't printed edge to edge, that's fine too, because the size doesn't matter on this one. I mean, I suppose you could get too tiny, but it would just be a smaller pocket. But again, the goal with this one is to use an entire leftover digital. So maybe you printed out a kit and like me, your pages got too thick or too bulky, or your book got too big and you've got some leftover of a specific thing, a specific paper. Okay, so let's see, trim down. Oops, I have to trim this one down a little more. Most printers have I shouldn't say most, I don't know that. Many printers have a button on them that allows you to print all the way, the entire page. And I had forgotten to select that when I was printing this. So that's why I have the white edges. If you've got that option, you're good to go. All right. Then you've got a paper, your digital. In US, it's 8.5 by 11-ish. And in the UK, it's something other than that. Whatever your size is. I believe they're called A4 there. So you've got your digital. You are going to fold it in half, hot dog style, or hot dog size, so hot dog way, the long way, right? Fold it in half. And then you're going to fold it in half again. So you've folded it in one direction in half, and you're going to fold it the other direction in half. And you can see there, I didn't line it up perfectly. It's because of the glare in here. And I can refold it. The little bit of a crease difference won't show because of the print. When you're using a solid, it shows a little bit more, but and you can do this with solid paper. I wouldn't do it with cardstock because cardstock will be a bit thick. So this is a thicker copy paper, but it's not a super thick copy paper. And I'm going to match up these edges and fold them down. Now, I sewed the edges of this one just because I like the way sewn edges look. You don't have to. Here is one that was printed on one side, and I did this on purpose just so you could see the difference and how you can utilize this with, if you've just got coffee dyed paper that you've printed on or something, it'd work just fine. It'll work with anything is what I'm trying to say. Again, directional works a little less well simply because if you don't like your images upside down, that might not be as appealing. But this one hasn't even been glued. It's just folded. And I don't even know if I showed you. I don't remember if I did or not. Let's see here. I'll use this daffodil bit. You'll have a pocket at the top, a full page pocket. You've got a second pocket in front of that. You've got a third pocket in front of that one. And in this particular one, we'll just grab this. There is a tuck spot because of the digital cards. You can put whatever cluster or any image you want on there, but it's got a total of 3 pockets and a tuck spot. So that's what this journal does, this insert piece does. Okay, so I folded this in half and in half, and now I'm here. I start in the back, so I open my book up, and then I take this very back inside corner, and I'll open the whole thing up, and I take this back inside corner right here, and I fold it down, I don't know, an inch-ish or so. I'm not 100% sure. This is my back corner. But the thing I like to do is try to make it straight. You get a neater line if you try to make it straight. This fold line, the top fold line, make it straight-ish. All right, and that's going to be my guide fold, basically. So when I go like this, this is this back corner piece right here. All right, and that will be my first fold. Then I fold this again, and this is going to be my very front fold, and I'm going to open it here. And again, I am going to make this straight. Now I'll take this corner and I'll match it up to this fold line because that's going to be my closest bet to making it straight. And I also like to try, if possible, to start my fold in this corner crease. You can mark it if you need to see it, but I like to try to fold it there and then make that mostly straight. And then I'll just fold it back on those lines that I've already got. So you can see I've got the fold in the back corner, and now I have the fold in the front. And I do it in that order simply because it's personal preference. And now when I make my third fold, this centerpiece fold, I've got a guideline. So I can better gauge how deep I want this fold to be, because I want the width of this fold and the width of this fold to be mostly the same. They don't have to be identical by any means, but I want them to be mostly the same. And by having this fold in place and then this fold in place, it allows me a little bit more freedom to decide where this fold is going to go. And I'm going to fold this down and crease. And you can see my lines are mostly straight. Now I would ink these so they would stand out a little bit more, but I've got 1 pocket, 2 pockets, 3 pockets. Now, if I'm going to sew it, I now open this up and I will sew along the back first corner that I folded. And then I'll open it up again, and this inside, this piece right here, right, this fold, then I would sew along, where am I? I would sew along this edge, or I can glue it down. Either way is just fine. No, I'm sorry, it's this one. This inside piece, I'd sew along this edge, and then my last one, I would sew along this edge. So I've got my 3 edges sewn. Sew 1, sew 2, sew 3. Ink if I'm going to ink, and then I sew 3 sides. I do not sew this top because then I'm sewing all my little pocket pieces closed. I would start here and sew down and across the bottom to close it. And then you can leave this side unsewn or you can sew it, completely up to you. You can see it's not necessary because that's where all your folds are, but it just kind of gives it a more finished look. So I sewed on that. And that is all there is to it. Now you can see there's probably a little tiny bit overlap here. Once I've done gluing or sewing that, I can trim those down. And decoration on the front, and that's as easy as that to make this pocket. You can do the same exact thing if you want it to orient on the other direction. So when you're starting, rather than folding on the top, let's see, like this, you flip it over and you do the same thing in reverse. So you can have it folded the opposite way. So rather than starting with the top right, I would have started with the top left and just flipped it that way. Okay, so there you go. There's how to make this little 3 or 4 pocket out of 1 sheet of a digital or printed paper. Doesn't have to even be a digital, of course. It can be any printed paper. Just cardstock makes it a little heavy. All right, so there's that. Now, inserts here. So, gosh, You know, and everybody has a different procedure. Some people are like almost like a surgeon, and they come in, each one is very similar, and I do that as well. But this particular one's kind of more hodgepodge, since I'm wanting to just utilize the pieces in my scrap bin, and my challenge to myself was only to use those. So I'll move this out of the way, and let's see, I need one back here. And this particular signature has a bunch of pages. So let's say there's 1, 2, 3. I've got 3 sheets in this particular signature. So maybe the last signature that'll go in here might be 1 or 2. Now you're seeing these lines on here. These are friction heat sensitive pens, so I don't have to erase these. After I've sewn them in, I can just use my heat tool or an iron or something, and the heat will make these lines go away. I draw them in now so that I can see to make sure I'm sewing and clipping them in to sew straight. But I want something here that is, you know, maybe a thicker piece. And I've already done one with this paper, so I don't know that I'll do that. But you know what? I like this paper, and I like this paper. I kind of like this too. So maybe I'll make what we used to call in scrapbooking a Franken page out of this. Oh, that's kind of cool too. This could be its own. So I just kind of go through my bin and see, what do I want to include? This is a piece of canvas. You know, maybe I'll use that for an inside, front, or back to cover the inside piece once I've got my signatures done. Maybe I'll use that for that. So, okay, well, you know what? Maybe I don't need to. I've got all these pieces together, and I'll show you how I make a Franken page. Oh, that one's a really cool one. Maybe I'll make some of these will be a Franken page. Do I? That's really cool too. These are just all old bits and pieces and scraps of vintage items. Almost all of these are vintage, but not all. Like this scrapbook paper is probably only 10, 15 years old. And then maybe I'll use another one of these pages. Yeah, I'd say you can see, I always pull way, way more than I need to make my signatures. I've got way too much. So I am going to end up having to put some of this away. And you know what? This is really cool, but I think I used this. And that's one of the things I also have to be aware of and careful of. I think this one's an envelope. No, I guess this isn't an envelope. But I used this in the back. So maybe I'll get a different map of this. Oh, I love Indianapolis. I love Indiana. I wonder, one of my favorite places is Shipshewana, but Shipshewana would be further west. And it's Shipshewana or Elkhart and LaGrange counties are just east of South Bend, but they are north and west of Indianapolis. So maybe I'll use this one. I really like Indiana. And see, there's an Indianapolis close-up, and I have a good friend who lives there. So maybe I'll use this in one of the front pieces. But I think I might even. Wow, it happens to be the right size. I didn't cut this down. This maybe, I don't know. I have this left over from something else, but I really like it, and I think it'll go well here. So I am going to use this as my next signature, and I'll show you my process. This is just my own personal preference. Of course, you can always do a 5-hole pamphlet stitch or any of the many other signature style stitches, but this is kind of how I do it. So now you can see here, I've got these marked at 1/4 inch for a larger signature. Well, this one's not a very big signature. It's just one page. So maybe I'll go in between so that I don't have too huge of a gap. I'll go in between there and I'll lay it out. Now, sometimes I use low tack tape. Sometimes I use clips, and sometimes I use a combination of them. It just depends on how thick the piece I'm sewing in is. But the big thing is I don't want it to move because I want to make sure that my page is mostly straight. I don't care if it's perfect. I want it mostly straight, and I want it mostly centered. So I'm going to put that down there and this down here, and then I'll lift it up and I'll put that tape down. And then again, I want to make sure that it's mostly straight. And a lot of times I will, in fact, I grabbed these quilting clips, but those are not quite strong enough because I've got quite a bit of bulk here. So I want to hold this in place, and I'll use some binder clips for that. You use what you have. I mean, whatever works best for you. These are really inexpensive and easy, so that's why I use them. All right, then when I sew it in, and I don't want to move the camera around, but maybe you'll be able to see that. I leave it on I turn my machine on, I leave it on a straight stitch, and I make it a longer stitch. So I put a greater distance between each stitch, and that keeps it from perforating and tearing out. I know it could, but I've never had that happen yet. So I'm finding this works. Sometimes I can see this pretty well because of the color that it is, but if it's a color that's really hard to see, I'll use that friction pen and draw a straight line down so that I know I'm sewing straight or straight-ish. Again, I don't worry that it's not perfect, but I do want it to be mostly straight. And double check that I've got it in the right direction. I want the words on this time card, coffee dyed time card, to match the direction of the other pages. And then I sew it right in with my machine. I will do a back stitch on this one and sew it all the way down. Sometimes I have to help feed it a little bit because it's getting a little bit thicker, but not too much so. And that's it. It is done and sewn in, and I'll show you what it looks like. Move that back over there. I know I've been out for quite some time. We had a water leak underneath our bathroom sink, and because we have luxury vinyl plank throughout the house, they had to repair the water leak. They told us it should probably be repiped, and that's in process, but they had to dry out the flooring first, and we have to rip the flooring out of the entire house because we have seamless flooring through it from one room to the next. So that's all just, between insurance and repair people and contractors and plumbers and all of that, and people coming out for bids. It's just been a really time-consuming process. In fact, they just took away today the dehumidifiers and the fans to dry out the subfloor. All right, so you can see I've got this piece in. So I'm going to do one more signature in the back and probably maybe one more signature in the front. Now this is a single and this is a single. So maybe I'll do 2 or 3 pages in each of the others of those. Now the only true Franken page or multi-page I've got is in the very center. And I've got some room here, so depending on how thick I make this, I might sew in something else. But I like to leave some gaps like this so that if I make my pages really fat, I'm still not overstuffing my book. Like right here, you can see now my book will be really thin. But once I start putting inserts and journaling spots and tags and cards and pockets and all of the things in page wraps, it'll get really fat really fast, which is why I try to leave myself some room initially. I've got a couple different heights and sizes of the pages. I don't have any envelopes in here, so I'll look in that bin and see if I have any envelopes, or maybe I'll even make an envelope. You know what? That might be a good thing back here. Maybe I'll make an envelope. I don't know. So anyway, let's go with a few pages for the front. So that'll be our next step. And you know what? I really like this. So maybe, let's see. Maybe I'll just do, you know what? Here, let's go like this. I'll tear this in half and I'll fold this in half-ish. Doesn't have to be perfect. And I don't usually decide the width of the page until I'm all said and done. And the reason for that is if I want to wrap something around or tear it off or sew on the edge or whatever, I leave myself that option. Height-wise, I usually adjust it before I get going. And I really like this close-up of Indianapolis. So maybe what I'll do, now I can use this edge over here. That'll make a cool belly band or something. So maybe I'll use that at another point for a belly band. And then I'll cut here. And I'll put these in my scrap bin. again, I have several different, well, not several, I have 2 different systems for scraps. I have, well, my work in progress scraps, which is that big bin I just showed you. And then I have on the side of me bins for once I've sorted the scraps. So I'm done with a project and I sort the scraps, so I'm ready to move on to the next one. You know, by cardstock, coffee dyed tracing paper, or whatever my categories are, I do that. All right, so I really like this Indianapolis. So I'm going to do that. Okay. I am going to fold this down because this is an old map. I want to say it's 1930s-ish, and it's a little bit brittle. So I'm going to fold that down. I'm going to turn my machine on bed off so that resets the stitch. And just for those who care, this is a Singer Stylist. I bought it on Amazon. I was on sale a year or 2 ago for about 100 and, I don't know, 100 and something, 100 and low something. But I've been told it's gone up recently since then. But I love it because it has the thumb controls. I don't have to use a foot pedal to use this machine, and that's really what I wanted. All right, so I sewed the top, and I'm definitely going to ink the top edge. And I did that just to give it a little bit of extra strength. That's it. That was my reasoning. And now I'm going to, yes, I've ordered the new Tim Holtz spring-loaded scissors. They look like they're going to be wonderful. I've had great luck with most of his products, so I'm not concerned about it. I have ordered them. I have not received them yet, and I will share my thoughts on it when they do arrive. I am taking part in Rach and Bella Crafts with scrapbooking with me and her daughter. I'm taking part of that, and I am doing a project, and I've already got those planned, so that's a good thing. I've got those. My day is June 7th, and I'll share more about that in a bit. And I'm also taking part in Creep on June, like I did with Tracy Fox Creative last year. And I'm June 4th for that. I'm really looking forward to it. And after that, my entire craft room has to be packed up and moved away because of the flooring. And that will take quite some time. So after that, I'll be gone for a bit. But I do have the time and the ability to do those too, and I'm really looking forward to them. Okay, so all I did with this pocket, this insert map piece, is I just folded over the one edge and sewed it, and then I folded over the other edges to make a pocket with a little bit of a crease, or a little bit of a gusset, I guess. And then I'm going to just trim off these corners so it's not quite so bulky using the points. Nothing new here. You guys have all done this. You've all seen it. And I'm going to crease those down, and then I will sew that, or not sew it. I'm going to just, yeah, I like that pocket. I think that insert, but I am going to ink the edges just a little bit because it blends into the background a little more than I would like. Okay, I told myself, let's see, what time is it? I said, self 45 to 50 minutes because otherwise it takes a long time to upload, and that way people can see what they want to see or not see what they don't want to see, kind of a thing. All right, so I just took the edge off that, and now I'll glue this down. You could also sew it, but the purpose of folding these back was so I had a little bit more room in case I tuck a thicker book or something in there, a notepad or a journaling spot or something. I find that I use those more often when I'm journaling because I tend to journal a little bit differently than many people. I journal things like books I intend to read, or I don't know. I don't do thoughts as much as some folks might, or that kind of thing. I don't know. I just don't always do it the same way everybody else does. And so I find that little booklets really help me. Like if I have a thought about a specific thing, like something I want to do around the house, or a book, like I said, books that I want to read, or places I want to visit, or something I'm researching, I will put all of the liked theme things in those, and then I've got them in the same booklet, so I can just go through that little itty bitty booklet. It's just kind of how I do it. All right, I really like that. I'll let that dry, and I've got a little pocket on here. Now, I don't know, maybe once I've got this sewn in, it will be its own. You know what I didn't do? This was not wise on my part. My book is only, see, this was not wise on my part. Well, no, it'll fit. Look, whoa, did I get lucky or what? The book is 4 3/4 inches wide, and you can see I should have measured my pocket to make sure I was putting it on in the right spot, and I didn't. It'll just exactly fit, but I don't want it to just exactly fit. So sometimes when you mess up plan A, you go with plan B. Okay, sure, we can do it like this. I'll just move it over, and that way I can trim it down or fold it or do whatever I need to do once it's in the book. See, this is what happens when you talk and don't think. You know what, I can put something over that if I need to. I'm not too worried, and I'm not going to put it right up to the edge because that's where it's going to be sewn in. So I'll just move it over a little bit, and we will call that happy. I'm not going to do the same thing on this side because maybe I'll do an over the top thing or something like that. I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with that side, but at least I've got it as an option now. Okay, so let's see. This is going to be 1 page in that insert, but I also have to consider the total height. And the journal itself is 7 3/4, so I need to have something less than 7 3/4. Let's see. Yeah, it's 8 and something or other here. So I don't really care about those little lines at the bottom, so I'll cut some of those off. And then at the top, let's see, so 7 3/4. So maybe I'll do it just a little bit less than 7 3/4. And I didn't waste much there, but I probably will use those for clusters, so I'll put those away. All right, that is 1 piece. Okay, what else have I got in here? What else? You know what? Maybe a piece of black cardstock? That's a possibility. And I've got my machine here, which is why I'm not. So I like this. And Frontier Scout, August 1864. It's kind of thin, but not super thin. And you know what? I kind of like all 3 of these together. But I am going to do a Frankenpage. Let's see, what have we got? What do I want to use for the Frankenpage? I liked this one. And that looks like it was part of another Frankenpage that I just cut apart. That looks like a book page that I cut. This looks like a Tim Holtz. No, don't like the colors together. It's not really a kid themed book, though that's really pretty. I really like that too. Maybe I'll use that. Let's see. Let's just see. And this piece is pretty good. There was a piece I wanted to use. Where was that? Oh, here's a piece of music. Oh, there's another one of those. Where did I put it? Didn't I see a piece that ooh, that's kind of a cool envelope. Maybe I'll use that. I thought there was a piece that I said I really wanted to use, but now I'm not seeing it. It was, did I move it to the side? It's a piece of, oh, here it is. This. I thought that was really cool, and I'd like to use that. Maybe it'll go here with that. I don't know. We'll see. And what else? The Son of God goes forth to war, bringing in the sheaves. Cool song, but maybe not the right one for this book. This was used in the other Frankenpage. I used some of this in the other Frankenpage. Treasurer's Office, Teller County, Colorado. Well, that's really cool. I'm going to use that all by it. Oh, there's 2 of them. I'll use one of the 2. Definitely one. See, this is what I do. I get so many. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to use that. Oh, that's cool. And then all of a sudden, I've got too many and it's too big, and you can't possibly use all of them. Though I can sure try. This is kind of fun too. Maybe that'll go on top of something. All right. Maybe another piece or 2, and then I've got to stop and limit myself somewhere. Oh, I did that one on the other one too, on the other Frankenpage insert. And this looks like an index, maybe. I don't really have a lot of green in here, though there is some green, so maybe. Yeah, maybe we'll use that. All right, so I pulled out some pieces randomly, And let's see how they're going to go into that insert. I really like this envelope, though it's kind of torn here. I wonder how I can, maybe it's too tall. How do I want to do that? Maybe I want to hinge this. Maybe I want to tear it a little bit more where it's already naturally torn. Maybe I'll do that. And you know what? This piece is extra kind of cool. So let's see. Do we want Cripple Creek, Colorado? Well, of course we want Cripple Creek, Colorado to show. Maybe we do it like this. And we make this into a tuck. Oh, I know. The front is really cool, but the back is kind of plain. So why don't we put this, I have to decide how I'm going to hinge this. And I also have to make sure that this isn't too tall. So let's see. And it is. So let's just tear that down a smidge more. And you know, the beauty of like this is old and whatever, I can put a piece of tape on that, or I can cover that with a piece of washi or decorative bits or whatever. I don't have to deal with that right now. But this envelope pocket is seriously cool. But do I want it to go this way? I really want the date, 1948, Cripple Creek, Colorado, because I like that. And it's the county treasurer, so I really want that to show. So maybe I hinge it right here and put it like this. Okay, I like that. And that can go, so this will be a part of, that'll be a part of this section. All right, what do I want to use for the hinge? That works pretty good. Do I want it torn? Oh, I know what I was going to do. Remember? See, I already sidetracked myself. I like this as a tuck spot. So even though it doesn't really need aging, I'm going to put a little bit around here just so it blends in. And I am going to glue this down now as a tuck spot. And the hinge will be on this. I guess the hinge can be on that side. How do I want to do that? I'm afraid that if I tear this open, that it would tear the page. And I don't want to do that. All right, thinking that through. I definitely wanted to use this. Okay, so this is going to be an insert for sure because this is seriously cool. But maybe I'll just fold it like this. Okay, so let's see. Is this height too high? Yeah, that's a little bit too high, but not too bad. So let's trim it down a little bit, and I'll probably trim it at the bottom because I want the year 1947 to show. And I could measure, but you know, ish is good enough. And I don't really care about the county treasurer signature, so that piece will go off. And then I know it'll fit. But I will save that because that'll really be really cool in a cluster or something else. 790 bucks. And I will use this. So this will be another piece that'll go into that. And then this. And then I can use this folded or not. That gives me my keeps my options open. And I need something a little bit sturdier because these are both really thin pieces. And do I want to do that? You know what? I kind of do like that. So let's just tear this down. And whoops, I wanted to tear it this way. And I'll go like this. Sure, that'll be my hinge. And what I'm going to do for this hinge, so that I can put that envelope in sideways, is I'm just going to fold it in half, and then I will glue this piece down. Glue this piece down, I don't know, somewhere. And ink this edge. I just want to take the white off of it, and the same thing all the way around. I haven't even stuck my dauber into the ink. I'm just using what's on the ink pad just to take the edge of it off. All right, now I'm going to glue this down. It's, you can see, not perfect, not straight. Glue that down, and I want this to line up just slightly off. So I want there to be a little bit, because the envelope is old and it's kind of fragile, so you can see there, the edge of the envelope is not going to be sewn into the signature like this piece here. And then I can glue something on here afterward. And in fact, I may well do that. Like maybe one of these pieces or another envelope or something else. Or this is just so thin, I don't want to put that on there. But I can use this as a hinge piece. So I can sew this in there. I can sew this in there. Okay, so I'm making my signature. Do I want a little bit of green? No, because that's ledger and ledger. Maybe I want something a little bit taller. So maybe my next signature piece, because I'm going to have to, I definitely will use this ledger. Maybe I'll put it in another section because I really, really like it. And see, so something like this and something like that. How tall is this? Is this too long? Let's look and see. Yeah, too tall. All right, so let's cut this down, and then this will be my guide for my height, and it'll also give me some stability. Okay, so see, I truly do wing it as I go. So 7 3/4 is my max height. And I am going to put this here. Let's see, I'll glue this. I'm just going to put a light bead of glue down here. And I will line this up on my grid so that I make sure it's mostly straight. And then I can use my rulers if I need to, but I don't need to in this case. And then I'll use the lines on my grid to make sure that it's mostly straight. Oops, I want that to go up just a smidge. Okay, black on black is a little tough to see, but we can do it. Okay, straight, mostly straight, mostly straight, and there. All right. Okay. So you can see I've got it lined up there, and there's a little bit of an overlap. Now, as I'm doing this, I will pull my sewing machine over. Oh, what time is it? Oh, gosh darn it. Well, we'll do this, and then I'll call it good. I'm going to change this to a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to make it a little bit narrower. I don't want to make it perforated, so I'm going to make it a little bit narrower and a little bit shorter. All right, and then I'm just going to put this in and zigzag those together. That's why I only put a tiny bit of glue on, because I knew I wouldn't need much. And I'll zigzag, and I backstitched it just a little bit. Speed it up. And zigzag that all the way down, back stitch. Okay, and I'm dropping things. All right, there. And I'll cut that off. Okay, and here we go. So that is essentially the same idea of a Franken page. I just took two pieces that didn't fit and put them together so they fit. And do I want, no, I don't want to do that. And I do want to cut it straight because the other is cut straight, though it doesn't all have to be matchy-matchy. I'll use this as my guideline and trim that piece off. And it's really old and cool, so I'll put that in my scraps. All right. Now I can come in with lace and put a piece of lace there. In fact, I think I will. Let's see, what have I got? I usually sew lace in place, but I don't want the stitches to come through. So maybe I won't. Maybe I'll wait and put washi on there or some fabric or something else. Now, because this is so thin and flimsy, I don't want this to be sewn into my spine. So what I'm going to do now is use my scoreboard to make my crease to sew this into my spine. Now these pages are going to be a little bit narrower, but that's okay. I don't want them to be all the same length. And so let's see, I'll mark this here, and then I'll maybe move it a 1/2 inch to the side. So where I'm sewing this into my signature, it's on the sturdy cardstock and not the flimsy vintage 1905. I don't know if you can see that, but this is from 1905. So antique paper. So I'm going to sew it into my journal on an area, and then I can support the back some other way, or depending on how I use it, maybe it's just a pretty page that I flip through. But I'll do it like this. And maybe what I'll do is make this into, I can put this here and make this into a tuck. Well, that's kind of cool, right? I can make this into a tuck. Maybe that's what I'll do. I like it. And then I've got this tuck here, and it holds it into the page, and I don't have to worry about the strength of this page to support something, which is what I'm trying to avoid. I kind of like that together, so maybe I'll just do it. Oh, I was going to make that a tuck. Oh well, maybe I won't make it a tuck. Maybe I'll just glue it down. Or maybe it'll be a mild tuck. But this is pretty thin and pretty old, so I don't know how durable that would have been anyway. Okay, and then I can glue, once this is in the journal, I can glue it down more if I need to. Okay. And I'll trim that because it's just a bit long. Okay, now I've got 3 pieces that I'm going to make into my signature, right? Isn't that what I decided? So I've got this piece here. I've got this piece here. And I've got this piece here. I didn't want ledger and ledger. Grr. Well, I'll do this instead, and I'll put that in another spot. Okay, so let's see. We'll just do it like this. All right, so these are going to be my 3 pages in this signature. I'll put them in just like this. And yeah, we're going to call that good. Now I'm going to clip these. I'll tape these together. Where did I put that tape? Purple tape. I'll tape these together so that they stay put. And where I've got the creases, I've got them pushed back into each other so that I get where I've already creased them into the spine. And because this is a smaller size, I'm going to use more of this purple tape to just tape it down in place. This is a low tack tape. There's lots of different ones, lots of different colors. This just happens to be the one I've got. Now I'm not putting it into this where I'm going to sew it. I'm just holding it in place to make sure that I sew it where I want to. Okay. Now I'll put this in here, and I'll use the guidelines that I've already established, that I've already drawn, to match these up. That's where the crease is there. That's where the crease is there. And then I'll just eyeball them to be equidistant from the top and the bottom. Straight-ish, doesn't have to be perfect, but I do like it to be close. And then I'll double check myself because I don't trust me. And I put those binder clips somewhere, and I'll binder clip this down, and I'll binder clip this down. And because I've got it clipped into place, I can look and see. So oh yeah, you can see I want it to go over quite a bit more. I'm going to move it back this way quite a bit more, which is why I checked. There's more than one line in there, so that's why I look. Okay. Eyeball, straight, calling it good. That doesn't look very straight though. So let's look and see. I'll put this clip on and fold this forward and let's see. Oh, that looks pretty darn good. Okay, so, and it's going the right direction. I made sure my page goes in the right direction and all the information. Some people don't mind it upside down. I don't care for that. I'll put this here and I am going to retape that because I'm not 100% pleased with the way that taped. It looks like it's wiggly. And I don't want this to be wiggly. I want, see, you can see here, it was wiggly and it wasn't straight. So I'll put a second piece. It's mostly straight. Tape that down. Now I can sew straight down this line. And I'm going to double check. Yes, I like where that is. Yes, this butts into here, this butts into here. And this is straight in here. And in fact, I think I'm going to clamp this down simply because it's really wiggly. And I don't want it to be wiggly. Okay, so you can see this is really a low tack tape. Let's make sure that's down. All right, straight. Still doesn't look very straight, does it? Move it just a smidge. That's better. I know I probably shouldn't just eyeball, but my eyeball is not always good. But for the sake of this, I'm going to do it that way. Sorry, I keep hitting those metal tins. I use vintage enamelware to store things. Okay, now I'm going to sew this in. And I'm going to double check that I have my stitch where I want it. So I just turn it off and reset it. It defaults to the basic stitch. And I want to make it as wide as it'll go because that makes the distance between the perforations. And I will put it here and I'm going to sew it right down. And that line is dark enough for me to see in. Again, if I needed to, I could use that black friction pen and sew it. And here we go. Oh, I didn't backstitch. Well, that's okay. I can tape it later and not worry about the backstitch. Okay. Usually I backstitch it, but I forgot this time, and that's all right too, because I can, like I said, so tape it later if I need to. It's not going anywhere. It's much stronger than other types of stitches. Okay, pull those off and remove my tape. So you can see, even with this old fragile paper, I mean super old, super fragile, I don't know that I would use it just like this because I'd be worried that I'd tear it. But you can see here, this is just coming off really easily and it's not tearing anything. And I can reuse this paper, this tape. I don't, one piece is not like one and done. You can reuse it. And I do. All right. And let's see what we've got. So I've got the envelope going in the direction I want, size I want. You can see here the envelope isn't sewn at the top because I only used an insert. Now I'm going to put something else on this. I don't know what yet. Maybe I'll put an envelope on there, or maybe I'll put just another piece of paper. I could wrap something around it. I have options because I've got this little hinge here. And then these pages are all sewn in. And you can see here, it is mostly straight, not perfect, but you know what, mostly straight. For this, it is straight. For this one, it's good to go. You can see here though, I moved it a little bit. Do I want to re-sew that in? No, I don't. It looks fine at the top, it looks fine on the inside, it looks fine here, and once that's removed, it won't even look like it's not straight. So we're gonna call it good. Now I've got that single piece here, and I just had that final piece. So I think what I'll do is I will sew this final piece in here, and even though this is one and there's multiple here, you know what? I think I'm going to do that and call it good. So that'll be my last piece that I've sewn in. I'd like to have a little 1/4 inch or so right here at the beginning and right here at the end, so that if I put something thick, like the writing card or what have you, or an envelope, or like if I were to grab this piece, you know, this is a little bit thicker. On the inside, I would have this here and it'll allow for the bulk. So I like to keep a little bit of space there. All right, I'll sew this in. You don't need to see me do that. I do it the exact same way the other ones I've done. And I will call this good and ready to decorate, and I'll decorate it with scraps, and maybe I'll bring you along with me if I think about it. And thank you all for your kindness. It's been a rough year for a lot of reasons, but you have been beyond kind and gracious and supportive, and I appreciate that deeply. The cards, the emails, the letters, all of it. It makes a difference. So thank you for that. I wish you all well. Hope to see you during Creep on June with Tracy Fox Creative and Create Arty with Rach and Bella Crafts, and scrapbooking with me. Take care. Happy creating.